Leeks are one of my very favorite vegetables, but living in the South as we do, it can be really hard to get them to maturity. In general, they require a long spell of cool weather to mature, but not deep winter weather. And we just can't offer that. Here's where I'm gardening, right at the top of zone 8A or the bottom of zone 7B. We're right on the borderline. It tends to be quite hot and humid here, so things that like tropical weather do great. This is my pineapple sage. It loves it. And very often, other things of tropical, even swampy origin will survive if we can protect them from the winter cold. In addition to heat, we tend to get torrential rains when we get them, very often in the winter, but sometimes in the summer, to the degree that plant crowns drown. The solution that we've found to these challenges is to put the things such as these Jerusalem artichokes and some of the other things that are unfussy about soil and drainage in the ground level parts of the garden and make extensive use of raised beds in really large containers for the things that are sensitive to crown rot, and that includes leeks. These are lanceolate leeks grown from starts early last spring, and they did get to a decent size. I believe I planted them in February and completed the harvest before May was over. I did get decently sized leeks, not immense ones, but enjoyable. Most were grown in 10-gallon grow bags, in which they did very well. So that's one way to go. Big grow bags or a raised bed, early starts of a variety that performs well under the conditions we have, and lanceolate is the best I've done. But like many gardeners, I've been hoping for a more sustainable supply of the vegetables we love the most. So, Perennial Leeks came to the rescue. I just happened to read about them while researching early varieties of leek, and they were incredibly hard to locate to get a start of them. But I did find some at a place called Sharon's Natural Gardens, sent for my start, and oh my goodness, they are such a success. Here's one that's ready to harvest, and here around its base are babies that are ready to be moved to their own spot. They are so prolific that I hadn't actually prepared enough beds and have temporarily put some youngsters into this planter. But it's only 10 inches deep. They need to go into an area with deeper soil ASAP. Although I've had these less than 2 years, I've already had plenty to harvest and to share. All of mine are succeeding in raised beds that extend at least 8 inches above the natural soil level for maximum drainage, and also to provide a nice depth of good composted soil. Supposedly, they don't get quite as large as other varieties of leeks, and while that's probably true, it's not particularly true for me because I've never achieved the maximum size of leeks in this climate and garden. One does need to take a little bit of care when harvesting. Don't just go out and yank them up, because the babies are growing right next to the parents, and you don't want to disturb your future leek supply. These perennial leeks seem far more heat tolerant than the annual types that we grow. Mine are in full sun. By midsummer, I was not harvesting them. I waited until fall because by mid to late May, they got rather tough and less palatable, rather harsh tasting. But the plants themselves had no difficulty thriving. They divided themselves, in other words, reproduced at the base, both spring and fall, which was a surprise to me. We had what was for us a pretty ordinary winter, except one very late, very cold spell, and these leeks were not bothered by any of it. This kind of leek does apparently flower. Mine haven't done so yet, but in this area they very well may. Apparently only in the warmer climates are they going to flower. So we'll watch this year and see if they get there. If you grow them, you'll have plenty to cook with, so let's talk about a hearty one-dish meal type soup recipe. I already have this video up on YouTube. It's also good, but today we're going to take a completely different approach. This soup is hearty enough to make 2 servings of a one-dish meal, as long as you have one little side, something like a piece of bread or a salad. We're going to take 2 mature leeks and saute them until they are soft. Add in 1 can of cream-style corn. Turn down the heat really low at this point. You don't want anything scorching, and stir it all together. Next, add 12 ounces of heavy cream. I don't like to keep liquid heavy cream on hand because we don't use it that often. So I mix it up using the Anthony's heavy cream powder, and it does a terrific job. We buy ours on Amazon. You won't see me add it, but off camera I added a tiny bit of salt. It only takes a little in my opinion, but basically salt to taste. Then blend everything, and because now you've got the cream in there as well as the corn, keep stirring and stirring. Don't walk away. And now, to finish it off, a half a cup of Parmesan cheese. The funny thing about Parmesan cheese is if there's not much fat in the recipe, it'll stay grainy. But in a recipe like this, where there's already cream, it will melt and dissolve and become part of a delicious, creamy, rich soup. I've sped the stirring up a little bit so as not to drag it out making the movie, but in fact, in real life, don't rush. Keep stirring and checking for graininess and wait to serve until that disappears. And it's lunchtime. This is a very flexible recipe. You could make it with more leeks. You could just double this one. You could certainly add herbs to taste. I don't really think it needs anything but what we've done for basic goodness. But a few shavings of carrot could be delicious added in. Hope you love your leeks.